All right, now we get that out of the way. So, everybody, I'm Chris. Most of you know me, some of you don't. Thanks for coming. It's going to get emotional. Eddie's going to need some help with that, so it's going to make me real uncomfortable when I get emotional. So, whoever wants to support Eddie, go for it. So, a couple things I want to point out before I get started. Hope Gateway was nice enough to let me use this room for free, but on a donation basis. So I will be passing a basket around. If you can contribute, that'd be great. If you can't, that's fine. Okay. I'm going to share my experience with some work that I've been doing. And also so you know, we're broadcasting live on Facebook right now, right? So I've cleared up most of the records of my past, but if you don't want your face on Facebook, you might want to sit in the back. But that's why I got this microphone, so hopefully the audio comes through. I'm not concerned about the visual, but I'm here to share about experience in some work that I've been doing over the last 6 or 8 months. And it's been pretty intense. And you all right? Yeah. All right. So, I'd like to bring this work to Portland. Okay, I'm going to talk about something that makes me really uncomfortable. Money. Unfortunately, this 3-day seminar that I'm going to talk about costs money. It's $525 for a 3-day weekend seminar. I do not want to talk about that, but I'm getting it out of the way right now, okay? I don't want to sound like it's a sales pitch. And I think a lot of you who know me know I wouldn't be up here if I wasn't talking about something that's got on Facebook. That's great. The work that I've been doing is helping me out tremendously in some of the stuff that I've been struggling with after I got sober. Okay. So I'm here to talk to you about it. And this is a lot of stuff that I avoided. It's a lot of stuff that I ignored. It's a lot of stuff that I was embarrassed to talk about. Because I thought I just needed to be sober and be okay and present that way. Okay. I'm going to play, I have 2 audio recordings. Right now, there's another seminar going on in Plymouth. So there's 2 seminars in this series, right? There's a basic and there's an advanced. Right now, there's an advanced going on in Plymouth, New Hampshire, with about 12 alumni that are there. And I'm going to try not to swear. I don't know how well that's going to go, but they're getting effed up right now, right? So I have a recording from a daughter, alumni, and I have a recording from her parents. Okay. I'm also going to share my experience with this work. But as I did my first basic, I started thinking how beneficial this could be for parents, really. And having done a lot of work with families, and knowing that, and I was talking to another friend of mine when I was talking about this presentation, who's done a lot of work with families. He brought up an interesting point. It wasn't anything that I had heard it said before, but through doing a lot of family work, families get invested in doing some work with themselves and helping themselves, and once their loved one gets better, they kind of drift off. The 4th step of inventory, and some of us have been around a lot know how easy that is, right? And I thought, how much 3 days is a relatively short period of time for people to break down a lot of barriers that have been there the entire time we've been alive, in a very short period of time. So that was one of the thoughts I had during the seminar myself. And then this girl Jess did it with her parents, and sure enough, it's really kind of changed their relationship. And I'm here not just to offer it to you guys, but to offer it to Portland. Like, the recovery community up here is intense and it's vast, right? So, I'm here, I'm just making sure myself. I'm here, this is part of it for me. The paperwork that I handed you guys out, right? The TMD, Transformational Mind Dynamics, right? This is part of my transformation. This is not necessarily something that you have to do, okay? For a guy like me, it's really hard to stand up and present something that you may walk out of here and think was a fucking sales pitch. Here's one. Right? I can hold this. Should I shut this off?
No, keep that on.
Too much.
Yeah, so they can hear you.
You can't hear me? Okay. So I created this event. Nobody asked me to do this, right? I created this event, A, for you, right? And for me. And the only reason I do this work is for my son. And what I get from that, right, is that me not wanting to have a conversation with you about this because I'm concerned about what you think, right? Here, this is me making it about me, right? And I'm not caring about the experience that you possibly could have as a result of doing some work, right? So I decided to come up here and get emotional in front of a bunch of people, right? Because I knew it was going to happen. This is not a shock to me. It always happens, especially when I talk about this. And especially when I talk about my family, right? Because 14 years ago, this was impossible, right? It was impossible in the action, and it was impossible for me to even conceive that my life could be this, right? And now, as a result of being sober for a number of years, I'm starting to understand what other limitations there are for me and how that's been holding me back, right? And moving through that stuff, okay? So, you guys with me so far? Anybody want to run? Okay, because you can, it's fine, right? I'm going to play Jess's audio, right? It's like 7 or 8 minutes. And then I'm going to share, and then I'll play her parents' audio. And we'll talk about some other stuff. So we got the shares, right? Then I have for whoever wants to volunteer, right? And there is a limit, right? We got an interactive thing that we can do, right? So what's the first question there for us?
We all have areas in our lives where we want to work better. When in your life do you choose to work on?
So we all have areas in our life that we want to work better, right? So as you listen to Jess's share, as you listen to my share, as you listen to Kathy, her husband's share, ask yourself that question, like, is there anything coming up for you that you feel you need to work on? And that this might be beneficial. Warp speed. ready to have this next step?
Yes, please.
You guys ready?
Hey guys, this is Jessica, and I'm going to share my experience real quick with you guys. My family's going to share their story too, and I wish I could be with you guys, but I am currently recording this from the hotel room at the advanced training. I am somebody who is in 12-step recovery, and I am also somebody who practices Transformational Mind Dynamics / TMD and attended the basics training seminar in March. And so in a nutshell, my story is I've been trying to get sober since I was 22. I'm 30 years old. I got sober in 2014 by working the steps. And that was my first time really diving into the steps. And I stayed sober for a little over 3 years. During that time period, I was very involved with step work. I loved it. It kept me busy. I was focused on it. I saw a lot of value in it, and I was just really into it. And so when I relapsed after 3.5 years, I was confused and disillusioned and just totally screwed up about it. I ended up getting high for about 6 months. And then I ended up in the psych ward twice in 2 weeks for suicide attempts. So I ended up begging my family to let me go back to treatment, and they sent me back. I had the opportunity to get sober again. And this time when I went into it, I was at a little bit different perspective, which is I'm not going to try so damn hard, because for whatever reason, I just realized that my perception of the steps and me like really trying to be really good at it was, I think, part of what took me down, you know? And at the time, like, I never would have said that. I mean, I knew that I was like a super try hard, but I didn't really see that being an issue. And so in hindsight, looking back at it, I guess what I took from it was like, okay, I'm going to do this for me. And that was the approach that I took. I ended up getting suggested to go to the basic training after about a year of sobriety. I had been doing work like this with a therapist beforehand, but I had never attended something like the basic training. And so I had landed this really good job, and it was like my dream job, basically. And there's like one, I guess, like a little blip of time that I'll share with you that might illustrate how I felt a little bit so you guys can relate. But I had this great job. I just moved back to Portland, which I thought I was so excited about. And, it was where I thought I wanted to be. And I was financially secure and had this opportunity to be useful and all these things. And I just remember these days where I was in my office in Portland on Exchange Street in this like really awesome office, like doing this awesome job. And I was just so disillusioned by everything. Like I was just like, ugh. Like every day just felt like a drag. Getting out of bed, I would get up and I'd be like, here we fucking go again. So I had this great job. And I would go down stairs like every, maybe hour or two, and I would rip a Newport and I would hate myself for it. And I would stare at the brick wall and I would just be like, what am I doing all this for? Like, is this really how I'm supposed to feel? Is this like being happy? Is this being, fulfilled? I felt like it sucked. It was super lame. And if this is what I'm really going for here, if this is what like getting my dream job is going to feel like, and, like being in recovery and doing well is going to feel like, and I don't know if I want it. And I remember like, I would think about suicide a lot not because I wanted to like go out in a super dramatic way or I was so depressed I couldn't handle it. It was more so just like, if this is it, like I'm kind of all set. And I felt really kind of stuck in a box when it came to step work and recovery. I felt like, this all came from me. Like nobody pushed this perception on me, but I really felt like I had to behave in a really certain way, that I was wrong if I made mistakes, that there was something wrong with me. And I just kind of knew that what was true for me was that how I felt wasn't a lack of meditation or a lack of, prayer or involvement. It was something else. I didn't know what, but it was something else. And so I got asked to go to this basic training, and I ended up asking my family to come along with me. So we went to the basic training, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into, just like my dad probably say. And what I really took away from that experience, which was absolutely incredible, it was intense and emotional and just really amazing, is that I have the ability to create my life. And I realized too, like how these patterns of mine play out in my life. One of my patterns that I play out is that I get my shit together and then I destroy it. And I realized in that moment of kind of eye-opening recognition that my 12-step life and my being sober was not exempt from that pattern, because that pattern came about long before I started using drugs or alcohol. So what I created after the seminar, my relationship with my family is amazing, because we're all three of us at this point are really committed to doing this work and taking ownership for, you know, what we create and how we interact with each other and the stories and the bullshit that we make up in our heads. And we allow each other to have the opportunity to take ownership instead of like pointing the finger at each other. And, you know, my relationship with my job has been transformed in the sense of I'm very excited about it. And so, I mean, I never thought that I was going to be somebody who like was kind of like happy or like motivated. Like I always thought that motivation was like some bullshit YouTube video about fucking Tony Robbins and like Shia LaBeouf just yelling at me to just do it. And the way that I feel now is not necessarily this super jacked up, I'm so pumped for life every single day, but I do wake up and I feel like I have a purpose, and I feel connected to my ability to create my life. And I guess as far as like, you know, real results, what I've created has been like I got a raise at my job, and they've been communicating with me about how grateful they are to have me there. And I'm, you know, and mind you, this is somebody who couldn't keep a job for more than 6 months, I think, in my entire life, let alone be recognized and given a raise. But, you know, I got offered like a trip to England and just like some really cool stuff happening. My relationship with my family is great. My relationship with my friends, you know, that's great. And when I say great, I don't mean like it's just good all the time. I mean great. Great to me means that I don't run away from them. I can respect and uphold boundaries and just be and take ownership for the shit that I make up and the ways that I disconnect from people, and just accept that I am who I am and that there's nothing wrong with me. One thing that I have realized too is that accessing this TMD work has given me a new relationship with the steps, where it's not about other people for me anymore. It's in the sense of it's mine, and my experience is mine. And I feel much more connected to it, and I feel, you know, I need it. It's my foundation, and without it, I would not be able to connect with TMD work. But for me, TMD work gives me the ability to really create my life. The steps created that foundation, and they saved my life, and now TMD helps me to create my life. So I hope that I've inspired some of you guys in some way, and I really look forward to having the opportunity to maybe see you go through the basic. Thank you so much, guys.
Let your parents share now. Why were you there?
My name is Joe. I'm Jessica's dad. My wife and I were in Florida, and we got a phone call from our daughter about going to a seminar. We agreed to go to be with her and support her, and, you know, out of curiosity to see what it was all about. We went to the seminar, found out actually the day before that it was a very intensive 3-day, 10-hour-a-day seminar, and after going through the seminar, everything kind of came together, and I started to have some breakthroughs regarding my relationship with my daughter as I was growing up, as she was growing up, and some of the difficulties that I had with her being a drug addict, and some of the stuff that was happening through her early teens to as recently as a couple of years ago. And unfortunately, pain, when you experience pain, especially with the pain dealing with your child, it's pain leaves a mark. After years um, of unfortunately being disappointed, it was difficult for me to be around my daughter and to communicate with her and open up with her, because a lot of time just being in her presence, all I felt was the past pain. And I didn't understand how to just live in the moment and be able to open up and share with my daughter and have a conversation like nothing had ever happened. And the same thing in my case, I've always struggled with that issue of living in my mind and not being present, whether it's been a relationship with my daughter, a relationship with friends, employees, or even with my wife. One of the things that I learned at this seminar is how to be able to recognize when I'm doing that and when I'm not being real and when I'm living in a memory, and how to separate that and actually be present. And not to, when I look at my daughter, now I see a person who's my daughter, who I just love, and can't wait to see, can't wait to talk to, can't wait to be around. And I feel like I can share myself and my heart and just be real, like nothing has ever happened. And it's the most liberating thing that I've ever felt. And it's not only with my daughter, but it's also with my wife, who was there with us through this experience, and also with my friends and people that I know. It's actually given me the ability to start to see things in life and feel things in life that I never really thought about. So it allowed me to get up in the morning, open my eyes, and just see the day for what it is, and be able to get as much out of the day or most out of the day that I could. I never thought I'd feel this way. I never thought I'd be able to have that heartfelt connection with my wife and my daughter that I have now, that I always thought I had, but never really understood that it wasn't as good as it could be.
Great.
So I originally went there to support my daughter, and wasn't sure exactly what I was getting into, and found out that as the first day went on, as much as I thought that I was perfect and I didn't need it and I was just there to support her, I started to realize that it was as beneficial to me to be there and to listen to this and go through this as it was to be there to support her. And probably in some ways even more so. It went from being there to support my daughter to being there to get as much out of this as I possibly could for myself and for my family. I had some breakthroughs personally that made me realize that I was very happy that I went.
Hi, my name's Kathy. I'm Jessica's mom.
So cute.
For me, I did the same reason I went was for my daughter, thinking it was about helping her. And the first day was, I'm not going to lie, it was really tough. I had a really hard time, but very interesting. It was very enlightening, especially on the second day, even more so. And also about how it helped me see things that I had done over the years as far as dealing with a daughter with addiction, and also how I enabled my daughter with my feelings and holding them back. And doing the seminar helped me to see that it made me stronger and that I have a voice and that I didn't have to not listen to what I thought was right. So as far as helping, it helped me see what I could do to improve things in my own self and in my relationships with my daughter and my husband and my siblings, or just people in general. So in the past, what I always did was just put my wants and feelings aside and didn't think they were very important. And what I did realize that by doing this seminar and learning more about myself, things that I wanted to happen, and the only way that it was going to happen is if I made it happen. So right after leaving the seminar, I decided that planning a trip or making my husband go to dance lessons, which in turn he actually likes. So it was all good. It made me move forward and stop dwelling in the past and knowing that after this, there is more to life than, number one, worrying about my daughter all the time, which has been very difficult, but it also expanded our relationship over the weekend, and we've had some really good moments after and talked and shared some true feelings for a change and not just pretend feelings. So for me, overall, it was excellent. I can't recommend it enough.
All right. Hold it up here. All right. Now hold it up here. So, I'm going to ask you guys, does any of this sound relatable to your life? And I want you to be honest with me. This comes, like, it's a huge fear of mine, what you think, Not necessarily you, but anyone. Right? So I've been sober since January of '06, right? Because of step work, right? Because of recovery work. And before that, right, depression was a huge issue for me, right? And there was a lot of things that came up that I didn't know were big issues. Avoidance. I found out I'm like captain avoidance, apparently, right? And I do it in really creative, manipulative ways so that you don't really get what I'm doing. So I have, right? And that continued in my recovery. And I took a job working in treatment. It was basically offered to me. Like, I'm not a guy who creates his life. I'm a guy who convinced myself that accepting what I had was good enough. Right? On my drive here, right, it took me like 2 hours. A couple of things came up for me. Acceptance and selfishness. Right? I will accept things to avoid things. You know what I mean? And I will convince myself that I'm being selfish to not have a conversation with you and let our relationship stay at a level of pretty surface. And I go, oh, geez. And I would fall into those traps, convincing myself, talking myself out of things because of those two things. There's a lot of stuff connected to that, right? Fear of failure, fear of what you think of me, fear of, right? I can connect anything to it, right? So, about 7 or 8 months ago, my wife says to me, I'm going to do this training. And what I didn't really get out of that was basically, if you don't do it too, well, I don't know if there's going to be a marriage. And I did it. Or I agreed to do it, I should say, right? And walking in there thinking, I've done so much work on myself, and I work in truth, and I do this all the time, right? I'm fine, like what? I'm fine. And if, that's your problem. I wouldn't say that to her. Maybe. So I go in there, right? And I sit in the back, because that's where Captain Avoidance sits, right? And I posture myself in a way, right? I move my chair, right? Which means I'm different, right? And I don't really make a lot of eye contact. And when it comes time to interact guarded. Some of you may know that about me, right? It's fine. As I'm sitting there and like my wife is contemplating, like, I don't know if I want to be with this guy. Right? So, I became a dad 2 years ago. Right? That's great. No idea. None. Right? Oh yeah, I love kids, right? Yeah. So then, is this messing me up? I started thinking about him. Right? And then I started thinking about my depression. Right? And then I started thinking about, what if he's got to live with this? Oh my God. Right? And then things start clicking. The victim thing that I did, I'm not really happy with my life as I'm clicking the television. Right? I had this therapist that she says, I want you to go home, get a really big piece of cardboard, right? Get the biggest permanent mark you can find, right? And write victim on it. Put it on your couch. I never did it because I'm really good at taking suggestions, right? But that's what I think of, you know? And it terrifies me. So I'm sitting there in the training seminar, whatever you want to call it. Not necessarily pissed, because I'm so good at handling my emotions, I don't feel any of them. Which includes joy, which includes anger, right? So I'm sitting there going, all right. And then I kind of realize I'm being presented something. And I can say no. And I can come up with a million excuses as to why I'm not going to do this. Right? But contempt prior to investigation, right? Isn't that what a lot of us say? I don't try, I can't say it doesn't work. Some of you were here early enough to see Oliver. I asked him not to be here, or else it would be insane. He'll come back. So now I'm presented this, right? I'm sitting in my chair. I'm not, like, first day of this thing, not like maybe raising my hand a little bit. And then I realized that I'm making this completely about my feelings, which aren't real. Right? I feel nervous and anxious that you guys might leave here and say, it's a sales pitch. It's not real. It might happen. But what I attach to that doesn't matter. Right? What is real for me is that son. Right? What's real for me is all these things that I do, these patterns that I've created my life out of. I created my life out of avoidance. And then I started using recovery the same way. You know what I mean? To convince myself to keep my life really small. This is why I created this event. This is really difficult. But in this, I'm capable of growing. In this, I'm capable of sharing what is possible for you, right? Just like I didn't know what was possible for me. So I came here to offer this to you. And I also came here because all of our needs are here. You're supposed to breathe into it, they say. Just take a breath. It's fine, right? So doing a lot of this stuff has given me the ability to communicate, right? Which I never really did with any of you. That's bad. Because of how I've created my life. And I say that to you, and that's true with you as it is with my wife, my family. I keep things very surface. That was killing me. And I hide. You know how I hide? How I hid as a child? Drawing. I'm a really great artist. As a result of my avoidance. Pretty good. Right? I listen to a lot of music. I hide. Right? I convince myself that I'm going to accept my life and the limitations for just that's how it's going to be. And I hide. Right? So, my need for doing this, and I know Jess talked a lot about it, doesn't have to be this, yours doesn't have to be the same. For some people sitting in the room that have never been suicidal and may not experience depression. All right? Those are my needs. I'm not asking you to necessarily relate to that. But I'm asking you, and I'm saying this, because 13 years sober, working in treatment, I feel like there's some things people just don't talk about. It was killing me. You know? My relationship today with my wife is an actual relationship. I got married, we didn't have that. Our relationship with my son. This is on Facebook. I'm recording this. Not necessarily for you. I'll have to get a bunch of people in training. It's for him. You know, if I walk out and get hit by a bus. Right? He has something to look at. So I'd ask you guys to look into whether or not there is a need to do this for you. I personally think there is, right? But I'd ask you to make that choice. And I'm going to ask you this as well. Register today. Because when you leave here, right, with an application that's not filled out, you'll go, oh, that was all right. That's pretty good. All right, so or I really want to do it, right? And then it never happens, right? I don't like saying that, right? But I'm here. I'll ask you this. Do you guys have any questions as to why I'm here? Like why this is happening? Because I posted that thing on Facebook, right? Was it clear? What did I write?
13 years sober and I felt that as well.
Right, you go, They assigned me to that jerk, right? What the hell is that? Because like, I wouldn't be sober without recovery, right? Oh, is this it? Doesn't have to be. That's why I'm here. So, you guys want to volunteer for an exercise?
Let's go.
So Forrest and Chad. Mike, Tesla, Sharon. Come on up, guys. You guys want to line up right here? You not hear me? How about now?
If you use this one.
Is that one?
Yep.
This way?
Where is it this way?
Facing me. I would do this with you, but I can hold this up. So now, all of you just walk over here. That's pretty good. So now, you guys, by yourselves, are going to walk from this way, from this side to that side. But, you can't walk the way you just walked. Okay? And you can't walk the way the person who went before you walked. Who wants to go first? Can't walk back. Can't walk backwards, I forgot to say that. That was weak. That was weak. All of them. All right, so what was attached to the last way you just walked? How did it feel? What did that feel like? Different from the way you did before?
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the decision to make that walk was harder than the actual walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It just walks.
It's like half a foot.
And you see what everyone else was doing and try to do something different.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the basic training. Like living my life in a way that is different, that generates something. Right? Does that make sense? Kind of weird, but, right? Thanks, guys. So, has anyone established a need for them to actually do this? Can you see it? And do you want to share? What are you looking at?
What am I looking at?
I mean, like,
Yeah, so just, just as follows kind of sums up why I'm here. It's just be present in the moment. my experience is very different from Jessica's and yours. But, I've got 2 young kids, and I'm just not, I'm with them, but I'm not always there.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the kids for me, it's just about in any conversation, anywhere I am in my day, I want to be more present in that. Those days that I am, I go to sleep and I feel good.
Yeah. So, I should have asked you to stand next to the mic, but, so, what you said was, his need would be to be present. Does that make sense? Anybody else relate to that? Right, the days that he is actually present, right, up here, you get something. That's what we're looking at. What would, so say that's no longer an obstacle for you. Can you imagine what your life would be like, what the possibility would look like? What would it look like?
Yeah, for me, it's just finding a place where I'm at peace, where I'm at every day. I'm not looking ahead, not looking back.
Yeah.
Because those things is just about trying to feel what's
Yeah.
what I want, what I have, what I don't have.
Yeah.
It's just, I keep talking about it's not real.
Yeah.
It's real. Give me all those things, I'm not happy.
Right. Does anyone else see anything? As far as the need? What do you got, boys?
Yeah, we talked about this before, left treatment or whatever, and I got deep family issues that I gotta work on, so like, I gotta fix up the wreckage of that, so then I can move forward and have like real relationships and have a future, my own family. So I need this to like, again, like, not only be present, but be able to like, properly like, interact in future relationships,
Does anybody feel like they struggle with relationships? Personal relationships, romantic relationships, relationship with the bus driver? What I've gotten out of all this is really a way to show up for life and to kind of communicate. Which I didn't really know I struggled with. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't necessarily see my limitations. Seeing how I've created my life from my limitations. And then, having the motivation of my son who comes in his onesie out of his bedroom, right? And having that motivation to actually confront, to show up, and some direction on how to do that. What I received through a lot of recovery work was a lot of insight, right? And then I was kind of left with, all right, now what? Accept it, be honest. Right? But there were still a lot of questions that I didn't know really were there. Well, how do I do that? That's what this is provided. So I'm going to pass this around now. Again, it's for Hope Gateway. Right, they were nice enough to give me this as a donation. So, here's a question.
Yeah, my own experience was definitely with my concept was that, like, my surface connections to people, like, when I go and talk to my dad, like, the same thing over and over again. And naturally, this time around, I want to change, right? And, like, for me at least, it's the courage not to bring up subjects that I wouldn't bring up with him, like, in the past, right? Out of fear of, having, deeper conversations. And so is this, what you're trying to offer with this? Is, equal way to connect with those people around you?
I'm going to say yes, but I'm also going to say I'm going to remove the word deeper. Because here's the thing, the way I connected with people wasn't a connection. And that goes for you guys, and that goes for my family. Like an actual, like a real way to connect. I don't know if the mic picked that up, but he was asking, is what's being offered through the seminar, or through me sharing my experience, a deeper way of connection? Which is yes. And it feels weird. Because, right? How many times have you backed out of a conversation because of how you feel, right? Like, this starts going. And the way I'm wired, right, starts talking me out, right? Talking me out of doing it. Or applying for a job, right? Or any number of things, right? And it gets into the groundwork as far as why do I operate the way I operate, right? And then once that groundwork is laid, how do I establish meaningful connection with people? Right. I put a lot of time and energy into not showing the world this person. I didn't necessarily know that. You know what I mean? Like, me not showing emotion to you is me not connecting with you, right? Me not being real. Me avoiding what the experience is, right? What do you got?
Yeah, since my parents just left, I guess I'll do something. I mean, yeah, like getting something out of this, I know, I know you know as well, my connection with my family, having an actual emotional connection, being able to, open up about insecurities I have with my father specifically. The resentment I have towards my mother and I have for a long time. We've never really been able to get past that, along with my, I have an older sister who's in recovery. She was in active addiction for a while, like during my adolescence, and like ever since then, neither like me nor both my sisters have ever, actually connected. Everything's been separate since then. Nothing's really been meaningful that any of us have been able to do. And they've also been, they've tiptoed around trying to make those connections with me because they don't want to, make me react. I've always been more reactive in my life with them than like proactive with everything we've done together. So like they've never really been able to see who I really am other than that kind of facade that I put up with them. So yeah, this could be a big thing for me. It's something I've been working on lately, especially with the therapist I've been seeing, trying to make a connection with my family.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Ed. Exciting.
So my wife and I, right? We operate in this way of, like I'm shut down. Like I'm that guy, right? And in her own way, right, she's shut down too. Oh, what's wrong? Nothing. Right? 3 weeks goes by, and then it's like, that garage, I'll tell you, right? What's wrong? Nothing. And here's the thing, this is work. Right? Like we find in recovery, just because I get sober doesn't go away. Just because I gain insight on things doesn't fix everything. Right? What I'm finding as a result of practicing this new approach, right, is a way to acknowledge the shutdown, acknowledge the avoidance, have a conversation, show up, right? So before work, a couple months ago, I work a very schedule, right, and then Oliver's with me in the morning basically, and she leaves to work at like 7:30, right? And a lot of our communication through the week is texting. That's awesome. That's a great way to build a relationship, right? So I don't remember exactly what the instance was, but we were pissing at each other. You know, it's something but dishes in the sink or something, right? And she goes into the bathroom to get dressed, and I take him to change his diaper, you know. And then as I'm changing the diaper, I realize this is the way I do things. Like what's operating in my head, right, is creating the shutdown in this certain scenario, right? And I get Oliver, get a little dressed, right? And I meet her in the kitchen, and I get accountable for what I'm doing. Instead of continuing the shutdown, and then 3 weeks later, nobody knows what the hell everybody's pissed on, right? And I got to work that day, and the whole texting is completely different, right? Whereas, typically you get an anger, and then you don't get one text throughout, the whole day. Didn't hear from you yesterday. Yeah, we did. That's getting us. Which may seem small, but it's huge. Being able to notice what my limitations are, and taking a step into doing some action, so I'm not living in my limitations, and my limitations aren't creating the world I live in. So, now, it gets more uncomfortable for me, right? It's about me. There's going to be a training here in June. 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Costs $525 for the weekend per person. You have applications. I will be here until 5 o'clock, hanging out. I have pens up here. I'm going to ask you guys to register and do it and help me bring this to Portland and to families. To each other, right? You can make a decision. You can run. That's fine too, right? But I'm going to be here till 5, hanging out. What else? We already did the donations to Hope Gateway. There's another training in Plymouth, New Hampshire, September. Right? 21st, 22nd, and 23rd at PSU. Okay. So I'd ask you to do this, right? If you're interested in doing this, don't allow the circumstances to talk you out of it. I have to work. Bullshit. Because you're all about taking a vacation, right? I don't have the money. We'll figure it out. This could potentially, right? this close to getting out of here. Especially the parents in the room. Or future parents. Or if you feel stuck, join the club. It's a really weird, culty club called Team D. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming.